My name is Alissa IG, the consultress, and I have with me the fabulous, the wonderful, the amazing. Can we get him out in the boxing ring? Michael Goldberg. Welcome, Michael.
How are you? The glasses and the white shirt probably don't tell the story, right?
They don't tell the
I was
story.
in the white t-shirt in a meeting beforehand, no glasses. That was probably more on brand, the better story. But I got all dressed up for Rise and Shine.
I mean, it happens to the best of us. I too am wearing my lucky Limerick shirt. I feel like I have my Italian on the inside today and my Irish on the outside, looking for that pot of gold.
Well, there you go. Well, my Irish is usually in my cup, but probably not this morning. But yeah, that happens.
Right on. Well, welcome to the show. Here it's unscripted, uncensored. So what comes out is what's top of mind, what's valuable for us as having our conversation in our network. Now, Michael, we've known each other for a decade or so. And my number one intention with these conversations is always, what is going on in the room where it happens, right? We are in this evolving world where today people have access to so much information, it can be overload. So what this conversation does, it aims to distill and curate what's really going on for people. I mean, it can be business, it can be personal, it can be spiritual. And today, my friend, we are starting
with bark mulch. It could be all about bark mulch.
Mulch. Right. So with that, I don't think it actually is kryptonite, but what Michael said to me earlier today, before we were hitting record here, just for you to give you some backfill, someone asked him, what's your kryptonite? And you seem to be very fearless. Now, Michael, I have to tell you, some of my friends have also accused me of the same thing, of being fearless. And just like, how do you do it? How are you fearless? What's your kryptonite? So I'm going to pause there because I know you started to say your story about it. Can you start that for us here? And I really want to know what you came up with.
I think my fear is somebody asking me what my kryptonite is. I think that's just be terrified if anybody ever asked me that question. I've got my Superman thing here. I don't know if you can see it with my background, but anyway, no. But this was asked of me about a week ago by a friend and also by a coach, who deals with all kinds of stuff and, as he says, head trash. And he just said, which was really flattering to him. He said, I really look up to you because of some of the things that you've done and and he said, you just come across, the boxer persona and all this stuff. And you're into fitness. And it just seems like everything you look to do business wise, you're just fearless. And I just have to know, do you have a kryptonite or what is your kryptonite? And, I thought about it for a second. And I was really taken by what he said. And at first I said, this is going to sound bad. I know. And I don't mean it to, but nothing. Like, I don't think I'm afraid of anything. I really don't. I look at it, it's a challenge. I said, but I'm sure there's something. You probably just have me, unprepared, where I really haven't thought enough about this. And I'm going to give this some thought and I'm going to come back at you. So it's really nothing now, but we'll see. And it took me about a week. And I did come back to him. We were in a meeting and then we brought the whole kryptonite thing up in the meeting. And I actually said to him, he didn't pick on me. I actually had said to him, I said, I thought of the thing. And, if there had to be one thing, other than like physical harm to my kids and, that sort of thing. Right. But so do you want to know it? Yeah. So really my kryptonite, and there's probably others, I'm sure. I don't want to obsess over it, but I think it's for people not to show up for me. I think that is my fear. So if I was going to lead a webinar or do a talk and I was, sponsoring and promoting the whole thing and nobody was there, I would be terrified of that. And I think what would be even more terrifying to me is if people were there, but they weren't present, like they weren't there for me. They were there for some other reason, because then that makes me feel irrelevant, or that makes me feel devalued or not important. And I think it's that whole aspect that would be my kryptonite. And I'll tell you where that thought came from. Is years ago, I did a talk for financial advisors, and that's my niche market as a speaker and a trainer, a coach, is I teach networking skills to typically financial advisors. And a number of years ago, this is, pre-pandemic, I showed up at a meeting in and around Philadelphia, and it was about 60 financial advisors there. I knew there would be there. I mean, it was up to an organization that promoted this whole thing. And that's my peeps. And so I'm doing my talk and back and forth, and it didn't seem like they were with me. Like it seemed like they were preoccupied. There was something else going on. Like these are my peeps. Like this is like my audience. And I realized early on as I was going, it really wasn't my audience. And the reason they were there is because the next speaker was somebody that was going to prep them for an exam that they were going to take that afternoon so they could maintain their designation and certification. So that was basically the hook. That was why they were there, but that was all unbeknownst to me. Had I known that going in, I would have handled the whole situation different. So it made me and my audience, it made me feel irrelevant to my audience and devalued.
That significance is a really big one.
So that's what it is. Yeah.
I think a lot of people struggle with significance. For me personally, when I took the transition from single, powerful career woman in finance to wife, mother, and homeschooling parent, like that transition was really tough because prior to that, my significance was in my career. My significance was in being the daughter of the entrepreneur. And like, it was all focused around me and my previous context. And then emerging into this new context of partnership and, running a home and being responsible for other people, those things mattered to me, but I had no concept of that prior. So in and a conversation I recently had with another woman entrepreneur and homemaker at the time right now, it's that search for significance. It's like, but the context is totally different. I know these things matter to me, but the reflection of my value, the satisfaction, and the affirmation that what I'm doing here is also received and valued is sometimes, for new moms or, stay-at-home moms that are transitioned from career, that significance is gone. Like all your significance is in the house with people who have no idea how to show gratitude yet, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So that search for significance, I think it's a lot of people's kryptonite, to be honest. When someone said to me, you're fearless, I'm like, is that true? Yeah. Or does that just look true on the outside? Because
no, it's true. But one thing I've also, and this I knew, and I was able to reframe this is, the kryptonite to fear is a plan. So if you know the things that are preventing you from getting the thing done, this is preventing me. I feel like I'm not good enough. I feel like I'm not smart enough. I'm, whatever it is, whatever, stories we play in our minds, all that sort of thing. I think the way at that or through that is a plan. So now what's my plan for never having that happen to me again with an audience? And it never has, and it never will. Because now my plan is, as I'm setting up speaking engagements and gigs that are like that, I ask the questions. I say, am I the only speaker? Am I the reason why they're there? And this is why I now have all of these questions that I ask. So it's good, but I need to know that going in. So I handle it the right way, or say, no, it's not a fit. This is not, this is not good for me or for the audience right now. Right. So now I'm never in that situation again, or rarely in that situation again, because now I have a plan to deal with it.
Yeah. And sometimes planning doesn't look the way that you think.
Mm-hmm.
I have, for the majority part of my life, I've been a very creative person with very keen intellect. So the part of me that's very logical, logistical, exacting, the intellectual pieces, they kind of go all the way down the pre-paved track. And the creative side that creates new tracks to begin with, that makes all the desires kind of come to life. Like my two sides have had to learn how to merge. I've really had to learn how to create new tracks and then figure out how to run on them. So it's almost like building a new operating system and then putting the software into it.
Mm-hmm.
And, so making that plan sometimes looks like doing nothing.
Right.
Making that plan sometimes means taking you out of that tried and true logistical, logical framework to see what is working and what's not working. Some of my best laid plans, it wasn't the plan itself that was valuable. It was the planning, because I have had to go back and retool, replan. And so my favorite quote from a song is, you win some or learn some. And so as you pivot, as you stay agile in these words, in this world, especially today, right? Because we have so many preconceived notions about how things work, who people are, how they show up in this world. Like, everything's up for discussion. Like, we actually literally live in the world of disruption, but in the best of ways, because with that disruption comes the opportunity to reconsider and to figure out how to plan going forward.
That's right. That's right.
How
But
to
it's also
put in
being,
the pieces that
but you
are
have to be aware of all that in order to even go through that whole process.
Yep. Yep. I had an insight when I was in Italy when I was 27, and it came through as the more questions there are, the better it is, and the better it will become. Because as someone who's always, seeking growth and expansion, I was under this misguidance that answers were what I was seeking. And it just wasn't so. It was the inquiry and the joy of discovery that I found my flow as a person, as a spiritual person, as a professional, in the creating of the questions. How many coaches do you know that tell you, oh, I know exactly what your problem is? No, they got to ask you questions first. They have to understand. And I think when people feel that you understand, they're ready to move forward and have you help them. So tell me a little bit about how you connect with people, and then how you, help them through what they're going through.
You mean how I connect with people?
Yeah.
I don't know if I do connect with people. I know.
You wouldn't be in business if you didn't.
Yeah,
right?
I know,
We are constantly in the business of creating value.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So my backdrop is boxing, and that's kind of my audience and all that stuff. So I am a competitive boxer. I even have a heavy bag right next to me. My company is Knockout Networking, and I've got a niche market where I help sales producers, most of whom are financial advisors and brokers, and I help them grow their business through networking and referral marketing, as a speaker, as a trainer, as a coach, of all this stuff. And I also lead a networking group. So, given that context, it's all about connecting with people in the ring. It's right. More and better connections are going to win the round, win the fight. And it's really that way in business, no matter what business you're in, whether you are a consultant or a consultress, or, or a financial advisor or a whatever it is, if you're not making a connection, you're never going to be able to do business. You're never going to be able to help people, because people aren't going to be trusting. And I think one of the best ways of making a connection is really being interested in other people. And if you're really interested in them, like genuinely, then you're going to be, you're going to ask great questions of people. You're going to be in a position where you ask great questions, and you're excited about asking those questions and about getting those answers and asking other questions. Because people, you mentioned significance, which I think is such a great word, because you're making other people feel significant. And if you're making other people feel significant and you're helping them to become more significant, just in terms of life goals, in terms of, in my world, more business goals, or although a lot of it has to do with confidence and facing their kryptonite. I don't usually use those terms, but that's really what it comes down to, is like, what's preventing you from doing the thing. And then if you can guide somebody to a solution about, how to minimize what it is that's, prevention, then they're more apt to get the thing done, or start to get the thing done. And then they want to continue to emote and connect with you. And I think that's really where it comes from, is being valuable, being genuine, making people feel significant, and also giving great feedback and being open to great feedback, like being very collaborative, in that. I think those are just, those are some of, I think my superpowers. I think it's just something that I'm genuine. And you are too, Alissa. It's just,
that's what we're doing here, right? Like, I don't have people here that don't have that connection.
Right. But the people that don't have that natural genetic makeup, it's not good, bad, right, wrong.
Right.
It's those that are open to asking the question about that and helping them to find that within them. So this way they can get to that place, just in one of my other meetings today, in fact, it was somebody that was in my networking group that asked in front of everybody, which I gave him credit for, is what is a great way of inviting guests to this meeting? He's like, I don't think I'm good at it. And I think these are people that would really benefit. And I'm clearly not doing a good job. And would you mind helping me with that? And this is an experienced, person, but just not experienced with this. So now he's asking for opportunities to get better. So how he can make a better connection and better, I guess, enrollment opportunity, not to get somebody to an event, but just to be able to make that connection. So it doesn't come natural. In fact, I would say it comes naturally to almost nobody. I really believe that. I think it's you end up with that, and it ends up evolving depending on the path that you take and the experiences that you have and the people that you spend the most time with.
Absolutely.
Right. So if you're spending all of your time or most of your time with people that are great connectors and givers and they're into, not only being significant, but helping others be significant, it's easy, right? Because you're around that. But if you're not around that, I think it's difficult, or you haven't asked the question and asked, what is my kryptonite and how can I be better at that?
100%. So I hear this, and as I hear you talk, I'm breaking it down into like who I used to be or who I see now in my children. It's easier in this world to pretend like you know everything than to accept that you don't and to ask for help, because that's vulnerable. That gives people an opportunity to share where you can grow, but it also means you have to accept the places where you are not already perfect. And that, my friend, is one of the greatest gifts of being a connector and being in business to be able to create value, is that creating that safety is like the first thing you do. People don't care what you do until they know that you care first, always. And then whatever you have to offer perhaps has to come from a discussion of, what do you need? Where are you right now? Talk to me. And getting people to open up, rather so than I find a lot of salespeople, they walk around with ego on their shoulders, and they're like, I have something great, you should have it. Oh, you don't have it yet? And then in the way that they're asking questions, it's almost like chipping people down and making them feel smaller and smaller. I just had this experience with a financial advisor not too long ago, where it's like, oh, well, do you know about this insurance and that insurance and this and that and the other? And I grew up in financial services. It was my first career. And as this person was speaking to me, even knowing all that I know and knowing that, like, I've got a pretty great plan in place already, but I was willing to listen and willing to be there, I saw that process unintentionally. This person was amazing, kind heart, awesome person. At the end of his sales call, I didn't want to talk to him anymore. I was just like, ew, you just made me feel this big. And that is not a way to incentivize people to do business with you.
Right.
It's a way to push people away. And I see that with my kids too. They're like, well, I'm going to pretend like I know everything, even though I really don't. But that'll keep me safe if I pretend like I know everything. But when you open up that vein of caring and you create a safe space to say what is going on and discover if there's a fit. I'm not here to push anything to you. I'm here to discover if there's a way to collaborate. Like, that's the way business is going. That's the thing that's turning this, buy my snake oil to like collaboration and value-based sales. I think that's, you hit the nail on the head when you said, creating that connection is paramount. And then what you have to offer only gets offered if there's a fit. So I think this is as much a sales training and this rise and shine as it is, being able to open the kimono and be who you are. I found some really great value from you, Michael, when you said, the creating the plan is what helps to metabolize that fear, right? So if there is fear in your life, it's just a flag. It's just an opportunity to dig in and see, like, okay, well, look at it then. That's really where the opportunity always lives.
And I think that's with, and I think that's with fear of anything, pandemic, people were, of course, in fear, not just for their health, but financially, their business, people that are in job search, people that are struggling for whatever reason. We all struggle with something, but it's really about, it's a plan. So now I think it's about having three, not to make it overly like convoluted, but I think it's about having three plans. It's about having a plan. So worst case scenario, I'm afraid of the thing, right? So worst case scenario, if this happens, and I don't want this to happen, but if this is the worst thing that can happen, what's my plan in dealing with that worst case scenario? Then there's the best case scenario. So if this happens and I get the client and I land the job and the money comes, whatever it is, right? Then what's my plan for dealing with that best case scenario? And then the middle is the most likely scenario, like what I think will probably happen and what's the plan for that. So if you're already prepared with those three plans, which may be similar, but they're probably different, then it's kind of like, well, at least I have this. It's like, you know what you're going to do next. You're not in a place of what the heck am I going to do? You know, it's right. So I think that's an important part of it as well, is thinking of it that way. And this way, it's kind of like you're covered, and you probably won't be surprised because you've thought of all the scenarios and you've thought of, you know, what it is that step by step, you know, what is it that you're going to do and what's the thing and what does it look like?
Man, you are just a wealth of knowledge. And I too, I help people quantify that worst case scenario and its likelihood of happening. And then I have people quantify their best case scenario and
Yeah.
how committed to it they are. Then you have goalposts. You can literally quantify where your fear is living and what's driving you to do what you're doing. And if
Right.
you can match those two things up and hold them in the same space, instead of looking at only the bright, shiny stuff, only at the positive psychology, all the, stay motivated. Yes. And if you're not looking at the ugly parts or like the, oh crap stuff, you're missing the value. You're hopping right over it and perhaps leaving money on the table, leaving growth on the table, and not connecting, because we all connect. Brene Brown has a really great video around relating with people and trying not to solve people's problems, but
You got a lot of great
them.
videos about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So we could talk for hours, I feel like, on all of this, but where can people find you if they want to come network with you, or they're, hey, a financial advisor and could use some of the tools that you have?
I'm under the radar, man. I'm off the grid. I'm the unnetworker. I'm the not networker. I'm the, where the heck is he? This guy's horrible. This guy's awful. So of course you can find me on social, LinkedIn. My company is Knockout Networking, so you can track me down through that website, knockoutnetworking.com. I also lead a national networking group called, wait for it, the Networking Group, and that's TNG or the networkinggroup.org. But you'll find me everywhere except for Facebook. Like I'm there, but I don't really like to be there.
Got you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you've been a wealth of knowledge, sir. I really appreciate having this conversation
likewise.
with you. And next time, everyone, see you there. We will continue to have wonderful people come through these doors. Michael, thanks a million for being here. You're one of the brightest stars in my constellation of life. And I appreciate you taking the time to come here and share a little bit of you with a little bit of us.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
So long, everybody.